Is that right?
Yeah, like stagflation, I think it was the last thing.
Stagflation, right? Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the sexual revolution stuff. Now, I know that Sam, I think it was just you and me, who did it.
Uh-huh.
I don't think Emma was with us that day, but I know we did some of this stuff already. So I'm going to review it slightly for some of the people, but we're going to go further. Okay, so all through the 1960s and 70s, the United States is undergoing something called a sexual revolution. Oh, let's make it a new unit. New unit, new quarter. Oh, yes. Okay, so all new page, start a whole new page. Whole new page, and we're going to call this, what is this, unit 9? Is that right? Yeah, we'll go with 9. Unit 9, the Reagan Revolution.
How do you spell Reagan?
R-E-A-G-A-N.
Cool, thank you.
The Reagan Revolution. All right, so the Reagan Revolution, let's go with A here. Okay, so the A is going to be the rise of conservatism. The rise of conservatism. Okay, the rise of conservatism. All through the 1970s, a social movement called conservatism has been rising and rising through the 1970s. Okay, this is largely people who are religious and traditional. They're religious, they're traditional, and they believe in small government. Religious, traditional, and they believe in small government. And they're standing in opposition to the social movements of the 60s and 70s. Okay, so they are in opposition to the sexual revolution. They are in opposition to the gay rights movement. And they're in opposition to counterculture, to the counterculture. Okay. They argue often that they are not in opposition as much as they are defending tradition and defending the culture, right? That's the way that they would probably phrase it. Though they are standing in opposition to these things. They're standing in opposition to these changes, okay? By far and away, they have a lot of these different issues. They're against the rising in, they are in favor of strengthening religion. They are against the gay rights movement. They're against like the counterculture, rock and roll, drug movement, right? They're against all of those things, but by far and away, the number one issue is abortion. Okay, the number one issue is abortion. And abortion is one of the most controversial issues in American history. Okay, and abortion hits its high point, kind of the high boiling point in American culture in 1973 with the Supreme Court case Roe versus Wade. So this is during the Nixon administration. Okay, but this issue, Roe v. Wade, happens during Nixon, but the controversy continues through Ford and Carter. And this is the triggering event to make the conservatives rise up. Basically, in a nutshell, what it is Roe is the name of a woman. It's a fake name. They gave her an alias to protect her identity. But Roe is the name of a woman from Texas who wanted to get an abortion. Texas did not allow her to have an abortion, and so she sued. So she sued, saying that she should be allowed to have an abortion. It goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. At this point in time, about half the states had allowed abortion, and the other half still prohibited abortion. And so she wanted an abortion. She wanted to have an abortion, but Texas did not allow her to. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Roe. They said that according to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, that a woman has control over her own body. Because a woman is a citizen, right? Because they're a citizen, they have control over their own body. And the Supreme Court, this is something that you need to put in quotes, they hold abortion up as a right that requires strict scrutiny. You can see it on the slide here, strict scrutiny. Strict scrutiny, okay? That is, and put strict scrutiny in quotes. That is the highest level of protection that any right can have in the United States. Basically what it means, this means that the right is so fundamental that the government cannot take this right away unless the government has a really, really good reason for like public safety or something like that, okay? So something like freedom of speech is a right that requires strict scrutiny, right? I can say whatever I want for the most part. For the most part, I can say whatever I want. I can criticize the president. I can do whatever I want, right? There are some restrictions on my speech. I can't threaten people. I can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater, right? I can't do those things. But basically anything else I'm free to say, right? Including like hateful racist things, including whatever, you know, whatever I want, right? Yeah, Sam?
So like, because like, obviously like, you can't be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna murder this person on this day. Like, yeah, but like, so like, what's that thing like with this is like a really like modern thing, like cancel culture. Like, I feel like that's a lot of that's going on right now.
So cancel culture, first of all, doesn't really exist. It kind of exists, but it's blown way out of proportion. But anyway, so cancel culture is what's happening where somebody is being canceled by like private organizations. So like when Twitter banned President Trump, right? President Trump says he said he was canceled, right? But Twitter can do whatever they want because Twitter's not the government. Twitter is a private company. So if Twitter doesn't want to do business with, if Twitter doesn't want to do business with Trump, then they don't have to do business with him, right?
Okay.
So most of what we see as cancel culture is not the government. It's mostly like private companies or private citizens, right? That's what's happening, right? Like you have the right to say whatever you want. The government won't stop you. Like you can stand on the street corner and yell till you're hoarse about how much you hate the president, right? But that doesn't mean anyone needs to give you a talk show. That's the difference, right? Like I don't have to pay you. I don't have to pay you for your book about how much you hate the president. I don't have to give you a talk show. I don't have to like support you with my advertising money. I don't have to let you onto my social media platform. You know what I mean? Like the government the government's not going to stop you, but that doesn't mean that me as a private citizen or as a private business, I have to listen to you at all. That's what's happening with cancel culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big difference. So any right in the United States that requires strict scrutiny is a right that is considered like completely fundamental to who you are, right? So religion, the right to bear arms, the right to assemble, the right to press, the right to, and including the right to abortion. According to Roe v. Wade, abortion is held at that same level of rights. Okay. All right. This is a super controversial topic. And so what I want to do is let's address both sides of this issue real quick. So let's make 2 columns in your notes. And on the left side, we'll put arguments in favor of abortion. And on the right side, we're going to put arguments against abortion. And so we're going to lay out these 2 arguments here. I'm going to tell you right now, and for anyone else who's watching this video and anyone else whose parents who are going to get upset, I am not invested in whatever side of the argument you're on. I do not care at all. It's not my job to convince you one way or the other. It's my job just to let you know what the arguments are. Is that fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
You can say your opinion if you want, but that's not really what we're doing here. So, cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that, like, every year I get parents complaining that I teach about abortion. Every year I get some parents who complain that I should not talk about it at all because it's bad, and then other parents say I don't talk about it enough because it's good, right? Like I can't win. I can't win, right? So I'm just here to tell you that it's a super important historical thing that we need to talk about. All right, so what's the arguments in favor of abortion, in favor of a legal abortion? Either Sam or Emma, why don't you guys get us started here?
It's your body, your choice.
Okay, let's make that number one. Number one, women should be able to control their own bodies. That is probably the biggest argument. It's probably the biggest argument. That's certainly the argument that Roe is making in the case. All right, what else? It's not the only argument. There are other arguments. What other arguments?
Like this is like for the against side, like you're essentially killing a person, like a person, like a baby that could be a person.
Okay, we could put that on the against side.
Uh-huh.
Right? Put it on the against column. Is that you are abortion is murder, right? People who are against abortion are going to say that abortion is murder, and so you are killing a baby. Okay. Do we have other arguments? Emma, why don't you give us one or two of the arguments?
Like trying to think, because like we sort of like covered the biggest one, but like building off of it sort of is like the idea of like increased equality between the sexes in a way. But
Okay.
that sort of like goes along with number one.
Yeah, and this has come up a couple times when we talked about birth control and stuff like that, right? So put that on the pro-abortion side, is that in order for women to be equal, they have to have control over their reproduction. Women have to be able to control their reproduction. That's the Margaret Sanger argument. That's the Betty Friedan argument. That's the birth control argument. We've seen that argument a few times in class already. Okay, what else? Is it safer for the mothers to have legal abortion or no? Emma, you're nodding. What are you saying?
Yeah. So I think it is safer for them, like, because if it's legal, then women aren't going to like find ways to like get it done anyway.
Yeah.
Like I know
Yeah.
I've talked to moms
So
about it.
let's put that on the pro side. On the pro side, legal abortion is abortion that can be done safely with doctors and hospitals and stuff. That's why you're going to oftentimes see coat hangers on the protest signs, because the idea is a coat hanger abortion, that making abortion illegal doesn't actually stop abortion. It just stops safe abortion, because women are still going to abort. And the coat hanger is the idea that she's using a coat hanger, undoing the wiring and aborting herself, right? She's using the coat hanger to scrape her uterus and abort, right? Which is extremely dangerous, and lots of women, prior to Roe v. Wade, lots of women died doing that. Okay, what else? There's a social argument that's oftentimes made. What's the social argument? Say it again.
It's not ethical.
Okay, that kind of goes with the murder question, right?
Uh-huh.
What's the social argument in favor of abortion?
We won't overpopulate. I don't know.
Okay, you would say society is made better because,
Less babies.
yeah, it's made better because there are fewer unwanted babies, right? So these are babies that would have been poor or not desired, right? Like people who don't want kids are generally not going to be very good parents, or parents who like can't afford the kids or whatever, right? So that's the social benefit that's oftentimes made. What's the social cost of abortion?
Less kids.
Yeah, kind of, but the birth rate's dropping not because of abortion. The birth rate's dropping because of economics. The social cost is, the traditional argument is that it's going against all religion. Basically, every religion on the planet prohibits this. Okay, so it's going against all religion and it's destroying the traditional morality of our country. All right, in between the two columns, I want you to put something in the middle there. We could put this in a box in the middle. The entire debate is surrounding around when an abortion can happen. At what point is this a zygote or an embryo or a fetus or a baby, right? At what point is it a baby? At what point is it a person? At what point is this a person? People who are opposed to abortion are going to say that this is a person from the very second sperm meets egg, right? They're going to say conception equals person. People who are in favor of abortion are going to say that there are different stages at which the development is not really a person, is not a person, right? So I'm going to give you kind of an extreme example here, okay? Would you guys be okay with me aborting my 10-year-old daughter?
No.
No. Okay. So you guys are saying 10 years old is too old. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. So we've established a limit. 10 years old is too old, right? How about if my daughter is 1 day old? Like the day after she's born, and I
Yes.
decide to just throw her in the garbage. You would say no, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost everyone would say no, right? At that point, if I don't want the baby, put it up for adoption or something, right?
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
What if the baby is -1 day? What if my wife is in labor and we change our mind and I decide to abort the baby while she's in labor? Is that too late?
No.
What if it's
That's too late.
too late? What if it's the day before she goes into labor? What if it's the month?
I think the line is like when you can like see its heartbeat, like.
Okay. So there's
like,
a lot
yeah.
of people will say that it's at 6 weeks when the heart is beating, or it's at 10 weeks when the brain is functioning, or it's at some other time, right? Or circumstantially, right? What if
Mhm.
what if the woman is going to die because of the pregnancy,
Mhm.
right? Does that
Mhm.
change your time on here? You would say normally I only accept 6 weeks, but because of the health of the mother, I can go all the way up to, late term abortion, right? I don't want your answers really. I don't want your answers really. But basically everybody on this argument is going to come onto that spectrum somewhere, right? Somewhere from day one, from conception all the way up to 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, 5 months, 9 months, right? Like everyone's going to fall on the spectrum somewhere. And that's basically what we've been arguing about since 1973. Basically, right? That's what Roe v. Wade is all about. And we've been arguing about that all over the place. Okay. I think there's quite a bit of arguments to place that timeline on anywhere on that spectrum. There's quite a few arguments about it. And I know people who had early abortions. I know people who had late term abortions, right? I know people who gave birth even though they didn't conceive the child willingly, right? Women who were raped and then chose to carry the baby, right? Like I know people on all levels of the spectrum, and I would argue that they're all kind of good and bad, right? They're all kind of just regular people. So I'm not invested in where you land on this argument, right? I just want you to be aware that this is what the argument is. Okay. When Roe v. Wade passes in 1973, this is the last thing we'll say about this. When Roe v. Wade passes in 1973, this is the event that activates conservative America. This is the event where the religious leaders of America join politics. Prior to this event, most of the religious leaders in America believed that they should not be involved in politics because the glory of God can only be made worse by dragging it through the mud of politics. Roe v. Wade is the point where they say it's time for us to bring the glory of God to politics to elevate it up, right? So this is going to be where we're going to get a rise of all sorts of religious leaders who are going to start joining in. People like Jerry Falwell, who's going to be a leader of the Christian right. But we're going to get a lot. He's just one of the most famous ones, so I just grabbed him, but there's quite a few. And there's going to be like Catholic leaders and Protestant leaders and Methodist leaders and Baptist leaders and all sorts of Christian leaders who are going to be rising up. Okay? That wave of conservatism is going to give us into number B, the rise and the election of Ronald Reagan. Big number B, Ronald Reagan. I'm going to introduce you to Reagan, and then this is going to be the last thing we do.
Okay.
Okay. So Ronald Reagan becomes president he's elected in 1980, becomes president in 1981. At that point, he was the oldest president we had ever had. He has now been beaten by both Trump and Biden, who are both older than Reagan. So up until that point, up until the last 5 years, he was the oldest president we'd ever had. Now, Ronald Reagan is a very, very important president. He's one of our most important presidents because he is a transformative president. The United States that you and I live in, the United States that we were born into, is Reagan's America in a lot of ways. Every political debate we've been having for the last 30 years has been Reagan's debate. He reframes American politics in the way. Kind of in the same way that when FDR became president, FDR also reframed American politics. So Reagan also did that as well. Okay. Reagan, his personal background is he was an actor. He's from California. He's an actor. And as an actor, he became an anti-communist activist fighting against communism in Hollywood. He eventually rose up to become governor of California. He is our first big C conservative president. We've had lots of presidents who are conservative, like little c conservative, meaning that they liked tradition and they didn't like change very much, right? Hoover, Coolidge, Wilson, Eisenhower, they were all like little c conservative presidents. But Reagan is our first big C conservative, where he is believing in conservatism as a political idea. One of the problems is that we keep coming up with new ideas and giving them the same name. So this is a little bit tricky. Conservatism is the idea that the government should be small. The government should be small. Taxes should be low. Business should be free and unregulated. And that the country should be in line with Christian values, traditional Christian values. Reagan is going to embody that idea, and every president following Reagan, all the way up to and including Biden, are basically answering Reagan. Okay. Now, Reagan is very controversial. Look at the grade I gave him. He's an F or he's an A. He's somewhere in the middle. He's somewhere in the middle. He has a real mixed record, And a lot of conservatives in America are going to refer to him as like the greatest president we've ever had. A lot of conservatives do that, right? In fact, he's held up by many conservatives to be like a saint or something, right? Like one of our greatest presidents, right? And so conservatives will oftentimes place him in like our top 5 presidents. Okay. Liberals, on the other hand, are going to place him near the bottom, oftentimes near the bottom. He has a real mixed record. I think you're going to, as we get going into the 1980s, I think you're going to see that his record is mixed. His presidency is dominated by a couple of issues. The biggest one is probably the end of the Cold War. The Cold War is coming to an end during his presidency. Something he's going to take credit for, even though, you know, we can debate about how much credit he actually deserves, but he will definitely take credit for it. He's also known for his economics, which is going to be transformative. Transformative and I think quite problematic, actually. He also has some stuff that is definitively bad. The war on drugs is bad. The war on drugs is extremely damaging. The AIDS crisis is extremely damaging, right? He is going to have some stuff that is really bad. He's going to have some stuff that's, you know, pretty good. He's also famous for being charming. He's very, very funny. He's really funny. He's an actor. He knows how to perform, right? And so when he gives speeches, when he goes to debates and stuff, he's funny. I don't personally like him very much, but I have to acknowledge that he's funny, right? He has a charm about him when he talks, right? And like, I get it. I understand why people like him, right? I don't, but I get it. I can see why people like him. So he definitely is charming. He definitely is funny. He's charming. He's, you know, he's popular. He's popular, and he has a real mixed record on his grade. I think it's probably fair to give him something like a C+ or a B-. I think that's probably pretty fair, right? I would definitely not give him an A, but I also don't think he deserves an F either. I think it's a mixed bag. I would probably put him at like a C+. The problem with giving him a C+, and that's the reason, the problem I didn't give him a C+ on the slide is because if I give him a C, you guys are going to think that he's average and not important, right? There's a bias that you guys have in your mind that C means not important, right? And it's not true. He is very important. He's very transformative. I just think he's transformative in a bad way in a lot of ways and transformative in a good way in a couple ways. So I would give him a C as long as you guys understand that C does not mean unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
A C means mixed. Okay. I think that's a good place to stop. We're going to, next class period, we're going to try to assassinate Reagan. Yeah. Yeah. He gets an assassination attempt almost instantly, like within just a couple of months. Yeah. So there you go. All right, guys, have a good day. I will see you later, and vote for your people. Emma, do you want us to vote for your cousin? Do you want to go on the record for everyone in my class on the video? Should we vote for your cousin?
I'd say so. I mean, he is pretty responsible and he's a good person. So if you agree with him and think he's also cool, then you should vote for him too.
What is it? This is like the US presidency?
I know.
Just vote for him.
All right. Okay. Well, have a good day, everybody. I'll see you guys later.
Okay.